before we get into the Casual Killing Act, the Casual Killing Act was written because of the number of people who were killed while being corrected. Okay. And if any slave resists his master, owner, or other person by his or her order, correcting such slave, and shall happen to be killed in such correction, it shall not be counted felony, but the master, owner, and every other person so giving correction shall be acquitted of all punishment and accusation for the same, as if such accident had never happened. So that means that if you happen to be correcting someone and you beat them to death, you know how hard it is to beat someone to death? I mean, I thought about that. I said it happens so frequently that they created a law so that you wouldn't feel any what? No guilt, because you were simply correcting them. It wasn't your fault. So I went back to look at who was beating folks to death. I wanted to know. And it was white women. White women were beating black children to death. That's who was being beaten to death. But it wasn't her fault. She was just correcting them. You see, what we do is we rob ourselves of our own humanity when we refuse to look at this stuff. We rob ourselves of our humanity. And that's what people didn't know happened. Going forward, one more. Then you had the mental health folks. This is how we got in. We got in to try to fix it. In the early years of the 19th century, a physician named Samuel A. Cartwright argued that two particular forms of mental illness caused by nerve disorders were prevalent among slaves. One was drapetomania, which was diagnosable by a single symptom: the uncontrollable urge to escape from slavery. So now what we've done is we've now pathologized your desire to be free. Must be something wrong with them. Keep trying to free themselves. And again, it would be funny if it weren't in journals. You see, all of this is to remove the cognitive dissonance. Now we have, look at all the people joining in. You got Linnaeus, you got anthropology, you got physicians. All of them saying, they deserve it. It's not us. We don't need to adjust anything. And if they just tried harder, how about you people just pull yourselves up from your bootstraps? What's the matter with you? The playing field has been leveled. Well, we're going to see if, in fact, it's been leveled. Or is that conjecture? Move forward. Now, I want you to look at this photo very closely, and I want you to see who's in it. More important than the man hanging, because you got to understand the lynchings that occurred in America happened after slavery, not during. Thousands of lynchings happened after slavery, because this is a reaction to white fear of what we would do once freed. But we didn't create a vigilante group to take out white people, but they did create a vigilante group to take us out now that we're free. See, that happened after slavery. They were called the what? The Ku Klux Klan. They don't wear hoods anymore. They wear suits. But they're alive and well all over the world, even here. So look at who's in the picture. I want you to look at this little girl in particular. You can't see her closely, but she's actually grimacing, like smirking. Now, remember, let's go back to the puppy concept here. She would be loathed and torn up probably if this was a puppy, which means he's less than that, because she's not disturbed. This little girl is not disturbed by this, but she should be, shouldn't she? People always ask me, they go, Joy, what was the impact on white people? There it is, right there. Can't feel any empathy for him.
It's high time for you Israelites to acknowledge the elephant in the room before the Lord comes to address him. All right, shalom. I want to start off this video by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Bahashim Rakakwadash. I want to give double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. In grace and peace to you elect around the four winds, believing and pushing this truth in all sincerity. May the blessing of election be upon your houses. This is your fellow servant, Rakar from the GMS Orlando camp. And don't have a title for tonight's lesson as of yet. But I I was meditating on a conversation that me and Akim had last week with a Jake that came up to the camp. And just like the head of the camp says, he had a lot of conservative talking points on how our people are supposed to get themselves out of this predicament we find ourselves in today. The same arguments, same conversations. We have to build black banks, circulate the black dollar, pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, raise up with arms, the same talking points that ultimately stem from our enemy in the first place and are predicated upon Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, staying in power, or in the American hegemony, staying in power. And they all fail to offer up the true solution to the problems we face today. And they fail to address the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room being that Esau, Edom has set systems in place to keep us economically, mentally, physically, and emotionally destroyed perpetually. And there is no way that we can crawl ourselves out of this rabbit hole without divine intervention. And the true solution to the problem we find ourselves in today is Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai, our power, the one who put us in this predicament in the first place. Because like it says in Lamentations, the 4th chapter, all right, let's get it. Our people are looking toward a nation that can't save them. Why? Because this nation didn't put us in this predicament. All right, the Lord put us in this predicament. This is Lamentations 4:17. As for us, our eyes as yet fail for our vain help. In our watching, we have watched for a nation that could not save us. All right, and the reason why this nation can't save us is because this nation doesn't have the power in the first place. All right, the Lord gave the very nation that we're subject to now the power to subject us. So the only one that could save us out of this predicament is the Lord. And that's the true solution to our problems that we face today. Not pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps. Not raising up with arms. Not building black banks, circulating the black dollar. Because guess what? The generations before us have tried that and failed. Marcus Garvey, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Black Panthers, and amongst many more movements. Tulsa, Oklahoma, Rosewood, Florida, the Black Belt in Chicago, Elaine, Arkansas, amongst many other so-called black cities, let alone the so-called Latino communities that have raised up, the so-called Native American communities that have raised up and failed. The true solution is waiting on our power to vindicate us. And yes, we have to wait. This is a part of our punishment. All right, like it says in Micah 7 and 10. All right, we're going to bear the indignation of the Lord until he raise up. Let's get it. This is Micah chapter 7 and verse 9. It says, I will bear the indignation of the Lord because I have sinned against him, until he plead my cause and execute judgment for me. He will bring me forth to the light, and I shall behold his righteousness. All right, we have to wait for the Lord to plead our cause and to execute judgment for us, because raising up arms ain't going to do nothing. Because the fact of the matter is, the weapons that Jake has now are hand-me-downs. What makes you think the enemy is going to give you anything that is going to allow you to fight on an equal playing field or have equal footing with him? It doesn't make sense. That's what Jake failed to realize, man. Coming with these talking points, all right, that the enemy is feeding them to cause them to crash out. The nations have always known that as long as we are in good standings with our power, there's no way they can overtake us. But if they have a way to get us to fall off, or if they have a way, or if they can get us to rebel against our power, they can overtake us all day. Like it says in Judah, the 5th chapter, the 20th verse. And that's what these nations have in place now. They constantly set stumbling blocks before our people to make them go off, to keep us far from our power. But the remnant is returning. All right, the remnant is returning here in these latter days. All right, and the Lord is starting to plead our cause. He's starting to execute judgment for us in the midst of our enemies. All right, the Lord is starting to prepare a table for us in the midst of our enemies, like it says in the book of Psalms. And this is all due to the remnant returning in spirit and in truth to the Heavenly Father through his only begotten Son. That's the true solution to our problems. And there was a clip that played at the beginning of this lesson, and I had to cut off the beginning part of it because I didn't know if they were going to take my video down. But in the beginning part, it was talking about a law that Esau Edom had in place to justify GRAPE, and excuse me. And those ones that you've seen, amongst many more, are a part of the systems that Esau Edom has been allowed to put in place to keep us perpetual slaves, to keep us in a perpetual state of slavery and destruction, amongst the Willie Lynch letter, which we let Jake know about last week. We are too far down this rabbit hole to climb ourselves out of. We need divine intervention. And that divine intervention is coming from Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. All right, and the Lord hasn't forgotten. All right, the Lord hasn't forgotten. All right, and a part of that elephant in the room is that the Esau Edom, the so-called white man, chiefly the elites of Esau Edom, have a recompense coming to them. They have a judgment coming to them for what they've done to the apple of the Lord's eye, being the nation of Israel. They have a recompense coming to them. And just like the scriptures say in the book of Isaiah, every hand that is joined unto them is going to fall by the Lord's sword when he returns. And a part of our duty as prophets is to help you remember. All right? Help you remember where we come from. Remember your enemies, because it's going to make it that much easier to separate from them mentally, spiritually. Our people have an attachment to our oppressor. The spirit, they've developed spiritual and mental Stockholm syndrome. And upon remembering this truth, it helps to separate. It helps sever that connection they have, or sever that syndrome and that Stockholm that they may have developed. Because the elephant in the room is that Esau Edom is the devil that the Bible speaks of. You've seen the laws that he had in place. And just like the lady addressed, a lot of this was taking place after slavery. The common Joe Smo Edomites were lynching Jake. The common Joe Smo six-pack was dragging Jake behind trucks. Not the elites, even though they had the power and the resources to implement, laws to keep, they brethren from taking the blame. But the ones enacting these atrocities were the regular Joe Smos. And the Lord hasn't forgotten. And there is a recompense coming from the Lord, not us. From Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. And right now we're seeing the onset of that judgment, starting with the awakening of the remnant. All right, this great awakening that's taking place amongst the nations. But I have a couple of precepts I want to bring out, Lord, when this is edifying to your elect. I want to get this here in Amos 1:11. It says, "Thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Edom, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he did pursue his brother with the sword, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually, and he kept his wrath forever." All right, and the Lord is not going to turn away the punishment. All right, for these transgressions. He pursued his brother with the sword. All right, us. He cast off all pity, which you've seen during the time of slavery. You've seen during the time of our ancestors. All right, his anger did tear perpetually. All right, meaning forever. He still has an anger for us today, which we see in everyday life. We see in everyday society. And he kept his wrath forever. It says, but I will send a fire upon Teman, which shall devour the places of Basra. And that's what's being prepared for these devils, man. All right, for touching the apple of the Lord's eye. All right, the Lord is coming with the vindication. But trust and believe that. This is Zephaniah 3:8. Therefore, wait ye upon me, saith the Lord, until the day that I rise up to the prey. And that was Jake's main talk, like his main gripe. He didn't want to wait. He wanted to do something now. Failing to realize that all of our brethren that raised up before the Lord's time failed. The Maccabean brothers, the Sakari, Malcolm X, Martin Lucifer the Queen, Marcus Garvey, the Black Panthers, the GDs, the Vice Lords, the Bloods, the Crips, everyone that raised up before the Lord's time failed. And that's why the Lord told us, therefore wait ye upon me, saith the Lord, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger. For all the earth shall be devoured in the fire of my jealousy. All right, the Lord is coming with more than a gripe just against the so-called white man, but a gripe against the whole world. And he's coming to establish his kingdom, his dominion. And set up the Israelites in their respective place, which is the head of these nations, man. Then true justice and judgment can proceed in the earth. But without the Lord, we can't receive true justice. There's no recompense we can get by ourselves that's going to be just. The Lord has to come and do this, man. And the Lord is coming to do this. All right. Let's get this. This is Obadiah 15. For the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head. For as ye have drunk upon my holy mountain, so shall all the heathen drink continually. Yea, they shall drink, and they shall swallow down, and they shall be as though they had not been. But upon Mount Zion shall be deliverance, and there shall be holiness, and the house of Jacob shall possess their possessions. All right. And this is the vengeance that the Lord is coming with. The recompense that the Lord is coming with. All right. This is the Lord coming to address the elephant in the room. And it's high time that you Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, acknowledge the elephant in the room before the Lord addresses it. Because as the Lord is addressing this elephant in the room, there ain't gonna be no white flag. He gonna lay down everybody, all right, that's attached to this elephant. Hand joining hand, right? It shall not go unpunished. Part of Jake's problem last week was the failure to acknowledge who the enemy is. And that's a big problem amongst our nation. That's a huge problem amongst Jake. They fail to acknowledge that they have any enemies to begin with. Which, when the history is brought out through the Spirit, you understand that all these nations had a part to play in our destruction. Going back to Psalms, the 83rd chapter. But the so-called white man had a chief hand in our destruction. And that's why the Lord is coming to cut them off chiefly. It says, and the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall kindle them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau. For the Lord, Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua, have spoken it. All right. Let's get this last one, then we'll close it out. This is Psalm 137. And I'm going to start at verse 5. If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning. If I do not remember thee, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. If I prefer not Jerusalem above my chief joy. And the Lord remembers, man. He hasn't forgotten. And he's coming to address this elephant in the room. Remember, O Lord, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, race it, even to the foundation thereof. O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewarded thee as thou hast served us. All right. And the Lord is coming to destroy the daughter of Babylon, being America. And we're seeing that systematic destruction as we speak. The Lord is tearing down America, Babylon the Great, and pretty soon he's going to have it partake in World War III, which is going to be his ultimate destruction. The patience of the godly is not going to be frustrated, like it says in the book of Sirach. Our patience is going to yield very great fruit, Lord willing, we endure to the end. But the answer to this problem that we find ourselves in is patience. Patience in Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, the Lord coming to vindicate us. That's the true solution. But with that being said, Shalom. Lord, when this is edifying unto you elect. Stay up.